Every so often, a new technology emerges that transforms the economic order and society in profound and sometimes unexpected ways. We saw it with the invention of the printing press, which democratized access to information, at least for people who knew how to read, and later ushered in the Protestant Reformation. We saw it with the invention of the steam engine, which transformed the economy, ushered in the industrial age, and we are now once again on the brink of a new era of epochal change. But unlike in the past, we have not one, but at least 6 new technologies emerging all at once. Artificial intelligence, biotechnology, new sources of energy that could promise to take us off fossil fuels, virtual and augmented reality, robotics, and the Internet of Things. Each will make their mark. But it might surprise you to learn that the technology that's actually likely to have the greatest impact of all is the foundational technology of cryptocurrencies, and it is called blockchain. Why? Because blockchain is ushering in really nothing short of a new era of the internet. So let me explain what I mean by that. When you use the internet today to send and move and access information, you're not sending an original, unique thing. You're sending a version or a copy, and you're retaining an original. So if you think about it, if I send someone an email, I can send the same email to someone else. If I post something on Twitter, it's available for everyone to read. If I launch a website, anyone can access it. So the internet, much like the first era of the printing press, is kind of a second era, right? A digital printing press, which empowers individuals and allows them to access information. Overall, that's a very positive thing. But it has some specific drawbacks. You see, when it comes to things of value, things like money, or stocks and bonds, or art, or IP, or collectibles, being able to send a copy of those things is actually not such a good idea. So if you imagine instead of sending an email, I was sending someone some money, it's important that when they receive it, they know they have the only version of that money. And I can't send a copy to someone else. Because if I can copy money or other assets the way I can copy information, then those assets cease to have value. For things to have value, they must have scarcity. And this is a very specific computer science problem that very smart people have been trying to figure out really since the invention of the internet. It's called the double spend problem. How do you ensure that when you move something of value peer-to-peer using the internet, that you can't send the same thing to someone else? And because it was such a hard problem to solve, even though the internet transformed a lot of industries, things like publishing and retail and so forth, whenever we transact or do business online, we basically still have to rely on intermediaries, on third parties. Now, some of these intermediaries would be familiar, companies like banks and other financial intermediaries, but increasingly a new breed of digitally native digital conglomerates have come to capture a huge share of the economic value that is created online. These companies exist in several different industries, and in some cases are monopolies or duopolies. Companies like Apple, Amazon, Google, and Facebook. Now, intermediaries and platforms like those companies perform an essential role in the economy. They establish trust between parties. They perform business logic. They establish identities of individuals in transactions. And overall, they do an okay job. But they do have some very specific limitations. They're centralized, and anything that is centralized is vulnerable to hacking or to attack or to fraud. And that's true not just of companies, but even of many governments. They slow things down, and they add friction. In the case of sending money overseas, it can still take days and cost upwards of 10%. It also excludes big parts of the population. There are at least 2 billion people in the world who are unbanked or underbanked, and so don't participate fully in the value that has been created so far through the first era of the web. They capture data about us, information that we know has value. If you look at the market capitalization of the biggest companies in the world, they're all based on data, user information, but individuals who create it don't get to participate in that. So what if there were an internet of value, not just of information? A global, distributed, highly secure system where anything of value, from money to financial assets, to music, to stocks and bonds, and titles and deeds, could be stored, moved, exchanged, and managed securely and privately, and peer-to-peer, of course, all without powerful intermediaries. Well, in 2008, the global economy was on the brink of collapse, and somewhat propitiously, an anonymous person, or persons, going by the name Satoshi Nakamoto, outlined a new protocol for peer-to-peer electronic cash, basically cash for the internet, and it was called Bitcoin. The revolutionary technology of Bitcoin is this thing called a blockchain. Blockchains are, in essence, tamper-resistant ledgers of transactions that are distributed across a network and maintained by many parties, not a single party like, say, a bank or some other institution. And now these new shared ledgers serve as a common source of the truth. In effect, they supplant the records of companies and institutions that have normally acted as trusted third parties in transactions. And what was remarkable about Bitcoin was that it worked. And it worked so well that it has set off this spark that has excited and terrified and captured the imagination of the computing world and spread like wildfire to business, governments, and much more. As the blockchain world evolves beyond Bitcoin and into Web3, entrepreneurs, business leaders, creators, and everyday people everywhere are really now beginning to understand the potential of this new technology to transform the economic power grid, the old order of human affairs, and even society in some profound ways. In this video series, I will explore the core concepts of Web3, charting a bold course on the internet's next economic and cultural frontier. Please join me on this journey.